And I think that if we took our culture and had that same drive and authority when it came to it, then they would look at us differently. But like I said, living in Georgia, it's nothing to see trucks with big ass Trump stickers and posters and Confederate flags. I mean, sometimes I ride through different areas. They have caravans of white folks with these big ass Confederate flags flying off the truck, like the ones that be on the buildings and whatnot. And they don't give two shits. You might see nooses hanging from their joints. They don't care. You know what I'm saying? And we could talk all that tough shit you want to, but when your ass is outnumbered, and these motherfuckers, they're hyenas. And one thing that hyenas do is that they don't attack a lion one on one. They come in droves, and this is what they do. But
And
anyway, I'm
this
sorry.
is no, but the point though that I go to from the next step from that is even in my little thought exercise driving home from the track was that this is the JV squad. This dude I'm looking at is the JV squad. So when you talk about that caravan,
Right.
the real caravan is when they come in them all black SUVs, and it's not a
Yeah.
Confederate flag. It's the red, white, and blue flag on that joint, followed by them
Worse than the
helicopters and them.
Confederate flag. Right.
That's what I'm
Right.
saying. Like
Right. Right.
that's the varsity squad, and
Right.
they're really not messing around. Them
Oh, yeah.
hillbillies, that's one thing, and there's
They
some
different.
serious white folks, but this
Right.
other crew. So I'm like.
Yeah.
So this is why I really appreciated this next point that I had. Oh yeah, no, yeah. But that's the thing though. I really do. When I see the American flag, when people fly that, to me,
Oh
it's
yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
And when they come in that black SUV caravan, that's way worse.
Yeah. But that's what it's about. It's about intimidation because they know that this is when you see that, it strikes some other sort of fear because in
Oh
their
yeah.
mind, you're not ready for the challenge. You know what I'm saying? You can shoot each other up, but you ain't coming up on this SUV
And
because they look bulletproof just because.
and
You know?
Fanon, and this is what, and Fanon talks about this in this chapter. He talks
Right.
about the internecine violence that basically we are too afraid to deal with them, so we turn on each other.
That's right.
And but he makes a point in here about guerrilla warfare that I, at least admittedly for our discussion here, want to soften to my point about electoral politics and the after party.
Hmm.
So for instance, or maybe beyond, but he makes the point in here when he talks about the importance of guerrilla warfare, the way I interpret it, and I'm gonna pull up the passage in a second. He says, again, as I'm paraphrasing, we don't need to get lured into the fantasy and the mythology that we have to match the colonizer resource for resource. In other words, we don't have to get our money right before we engage the enemy. We don't have to get we're never, in other words, we're never going to amass whether it's financially, militarily, whatever, we're never going to amass what they have, because he talks about, we'll come back to this in another point, the capitalist productive capacity that produces the military might that they're able to bring to bear on us that we can't produce. We don't have the factories. We don't have the shipping lanes. We don't have the endless territory and resources to develop all that weaponry. But we do have the ability, as he says, of the guerrilla. And I would argue for our day and time, or for this public discussion, we have the ability to marshal and move people without resources in ways that they would discourage just out of fear. So so I love that part in rereading this to say to get that inspiration. Like, nah, man, people who come to you with this, wait till that perfect moment where we have amassed all of these trillions of dollars. No. We have other ways to move. It's
Right.
never going to happen.
No, your money won't even matter. But that's
Right.
the beauty of guerrilla warfare, right? I mean, because of the fact that you're coming with limited resources and you're obtaining your resources either from the enemy or from the people. You know what I'm saying? You're not coming with a truckload of whatever. You're in a situation. You got to figure out how to move, and that is where the successful quote unquote rebellions lie. Not in you just coming with some major military. This is how the Cuban Revolution was won. This is how Dedan Kamathi and the quote unquote Land of Freedom Party got down. Land of Freedom Army, and this is how, so many others, the Patrice Lumumba, so on and so forth, Che Guevara. This is what it's about, and if you're not ready for that, all that shit about the money is a cop out. You know what I'm saying? You're not getting any grants to fight white supremacy. Let's not get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? These folks aren't giving you money to combat them literally. You know what I'm saying? They're giving you enough to make you feel as if you're advancing. And it's sort of like the vote. That's how this nonprofit industry is to a great extent. You know what I'm saying? They're making you feel like you can yell, you can fight. Yes, we're gonna resist. Let's create these banners. Let's do this, so on and so forth. But you're not going to get any real resource through that. And you're not going to obtain any real victory. At the most, you'll get some type of policy change. And even if the policy change, it'll still be in their favor. So.
And this is the part here where I'll just share this part because the screen for this part where he's talking about, and I know we want to come to this discussion too about the reformist leaders and the sort of the colonial intellectuals and all of that. But he says here, in fact, the reformist leaders say the same thing. What do you expect to fight the colonists with? Your knives, with your shotguns? We don't have the power that they have. What are you going to do? And he's saying no. Or he said, well, yeah, we are going to do that. We don't, we can do it that way. And he makes the important point of showing how the concept of the guerrilla and the concept of decolonial, anti-colonial struggle had been internationalized. So to your point, when he makes reference, Fanon does, to Mau Mau and to the victory of the Vietnamese over the French at Dien Bien Phu, he's saying those victories become globally important and relevant to all of us in that same struggle. They represent all of our capabilities. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, this is, woo, he's getting amped,
It's ill though, because it's like, it reminds me of Digital Underground. All around the world, same song. It's just the same old song. It's
or
the same.
Wars, the world is a ghetto.
Word up. But it's the same excuses over and over again. You know what I mean? We can't fight because boom, boom, boom. It's too many of them. You know what I'm saying? They got money. We can't beat them. But when you hear that, this is a person who clearly hasn't studied history, because all quote unquote empires fall, empires rise, and empires fall. Nothing lasts forever on this planet. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even life, life forms become extinct. So for you to say, okay, boom, we can't dismantle, we can't decolonize, it's like it's a defeatist attitude out the gate. And I'm not, it's ain't a tough guy thing. And I think that's the beauty of what Fanon was talking about as well, because I think a lot of people get it twisted and think that he's glorifying violence. And that's not the case at all. He's saying, look, if we try, what's your man, who's that? Was it Arafat that said, I come to you with an olive branch and was it a 45 or 44? He said, don't make me drop the olive branch. You know what I'm saying? It's like, look, I'm coming to you in peace. Not sure, but yeah, I'm coming to you in peace, but we can get a piece if you want to. You know what I'm saying? And this is what I think most African people, most of our freedom fighters talked about. We confuse revolution for hatred, but it's as Che was talking about. It is an act of love.
So the Battle of Algiers, to me, so initially I was thinking, as I said to you, like reading Fanon while dealing with this film, it was like reading the liner notes to the film.
Right.
But the film, if I may be wrong, is taking a little bit of a different perspective than Fanon is writing about in this chapter. Now, obviously the film is years after the fact, but because in the film, it focuses on those in the urban city center of Algiers, obviously, right, the capital. And it shows a number of different things, but primarily it shows what I'm thinking are the collective of, because you have the Lapointe character,
Ali,
the
yeah,
young
yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
He seems to represent what Fanon is talking about in this chapter as the sort of, I guess, the urban proletariat.
Right, right.
His leaders seem to represent that urban intellectual,
Yeah,
revolutionary intellectual, guerrilla intellectual, maybe. So it seems to, and there's some tension, but it between Lapointe wanting to ramp up the violence and those leaders trying to tell him at one point, you got to slow it down. We're not ready for that yet.
right.
Um, and uh 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 oh man, I just lost my train of thought. But the one point I really wanted to get at is that at the end of the film, one of the French general who comes in, the old general comes in, and he's congratulating the colonel for successfully putting down the urban rebellion. And he
Right.
says, dealing with the ones in the mountains is easier, which seemed to be a little bit different from what Fanon seems to be arguing, in that the people in the hills, the only difficulty is for Fanon whether the leadership is going to demonstrate itself to be real enough to keep them from turning on the new leaders once they've already agreed that violence is acceptable and violence is necessary, and they have nothing to lose. That is the rural proletariat has nothing to lose. So so Fanon says they're the first ones to be willing to go to violence. They're the first ones willing to pick up arms, and then it's just a matter of whether the new national leadership is going to appease them or become their next victim.
Hmm.
Anyway, so I don't know. I don't think I was very clear there. There's a lot of thoughts going through my head right
No,
now. So but
yeah.
let me just stop for a second.
Nah. I think I get where you're going. Like the film itself, what was dope about that, and I always said, to me, the the Battle of Algiers was sort of
Yes.
like the soundtrack
Mm-hmm.
to Wretched of the Earth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In my mind,
Mm-hmm.
that's how I played it out. Now, for someone like Ali, Ali to me represents um folks like the BLA.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Um, they represent, the have-nots, the hungry, and the colonized. They are the Detroit Reds turned Malcolm. They are the folks from the school of George Jackson. It's like, you're looking at this thing from one frame, and then you realizing, like, wait, these are our enemies. And it's like he got a political education, quick dose of political education when he was out doing dumb shit. He flipped them, and then he realized, how to get on the right side of things. The thing that I love about this film as well is it talks about, I mean, speaks to the intricacies of organizing and what must be done, to clean up the community, to clean up society. For instance, like the situation with, and it shows that everyone was involved, from the youth to the elders to the women. Everyone had a role to play. It wasn't a situation where it's just the quote unquote intellectuals. So that part was important. Um, I love the fact that with the drunk old man that's stumbling through town, how the youth, they put hands on him. Like, look, you can't be out here acting like you out your mind. It's a revolution going on. You clowning, and they knotted him up. And that's, you know that is a form of accountability. You know what I'm saying? Whereas some people would look at that in the States, and they'd be like, oh, he disrespecting the elder. No, he ain't disrespecting the elder. The elder was disrespecting the community. You understand what I'm saying? The elder was disrespecting the process. And to a great extent, like one of my OGs talked about, you know, every old MF was not an elder. Some of them are just old MFers. And
Right.
we got to come to task with that. You
The
know,
only problem I had with that, though, is that I was thinking on actually about Mutulu Shakur's work, and I was thinking about the impact of colonization in creating the drug and alcohol epidemic. So I was like, I get the point that they're saying we got
right,
to clean ourselves up, we got to get rid of the dope, we got to get rid of the prostitution, the sex work, but that I couldn't help but think that. I was like, it wasn't. I agree with you. It's not about beating up an elder. It was more of a defense of the addiction.
Right.
And I was thinking, but anyway, the point I still thought was, but the other thing that, anyway, there's so many things.
It is multi-pronged. So I
Yeah,
get what you're saying, but
yeah,
again, when we're talking about, it's a process. You know what I mean?
hmm
It's not just one way. And I think that that's one of the grave errors we make. You know, an example of that would be BPM. We all look at things from a different lens. Like you said, the ultimate goal, I believe, is that we are anti-capitalist. You know what I'm saying? I believe that we're talking about Black power. We're talking about self-determination, so on and so forth. But there's different roads to get there.
hmm
So indeed, and Ali is necessary, just like what was my man name? Who was the who was his I don't want to say his leader or whatever.
his next in command, maybe, or whatever.
Yeah, I can't even think of
I
homeboy's
can't
name.
remember his name either.
Yeah,
Clean shaven dude. Yeah.
yeah. Was it Omar?
It could be,
Yeah,
but I
whatever
don't
the
know,
case
man.
is, yeah, it's
Yeah.
all good. We know what it is. But anyway, homeboy, they both had, like you said, they had different roles, but they were working together. But even the youth, they had different roles, but they were
hmm
working together. You know what I'm saying? The
There's
women,
one of them right here.
right, right, I mean, just that scene right there, that was a lovely
It's
part
a
of the
lovely,
film.
yeah, it's a
But
beautiful part of
matter
the
of fact, I
film.
think that might have been Omar. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But anyway, the
Mhm.
point I'm getting at is that we have to be able to embrace the fact that there are going to be different roles and positions
Yeah.
in the liberation movement, and if we
The
don't,
the
we have a problem. But go ahead.
the no, no, absolutely. I think that's exactly right. And I think that, I mean, I think the film does a good job of giving life to what Fanon is writing, in the sense that it's not easy, it's not clear, it's not or not there's not always just that one clear path. There's going to be bumpy roads. Even
Right.
the revolutionaries have arguments and disagreements.
Absolutely.
Um and there's going to be, uh, 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 so, and Fanon is talking about this. So even from the very beginning of the chapter, even from the beginning of the whole the tension over the class conflict, but he's also talking about the contradiction and the struggle of colonialism producing benefits for various elements of the colonized that have to be overturned. So he even talks about in this chapter the when he's talking about the rural lumpen proletariat, he's also talking about how in those feudal societies, the old leadership, the old chieftain and elder style leadership is protected. And in some
Right.
ways, they want to protect that. And they resist calls for revolution as being too modernist and going against the old traditional ways. And and they almost make accusations of calls for revolution as being, well, in today's language, Eurocentric. And
Right.
I couldn't help again but thinking about these ongoing beefs we have between the Marxists and the cultural nationalists, and the various perspectives within those camps. And it's like, and each claiming to better represent the lumpen,
Right.
and then the off the record. Usually they're off the record, because most people, I'm not aware of too many people going on the record with this argument, but off the record, people really saying we can't organize the lumpen, and people who have made that argument were wrong, that they're
Right.
too far gone. Like Fanon even, alludes a little
Right.
bit to that.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, man, this is so.
And even that I could never understand that particular angle, because I guess I come from the lumping. You understand what I'm saying? You have folks like the Darubas, you know what I'm saying, who were leaders of street organizations. You know what I'm saying? You have so many different folks, like I said, the Georges, the Malcolms. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if they said, that argument against Malcolm, we would have lost some of our greatest. You know, so
Yeah, I
I think
struggle with
that,
that one too.
yeah,
And I also struggle with, first of all, I struggle with the idea that any particular group or class is better suited than the other. So, for instance, like I
right.
know, I think I'm often, personally, I think I'm often misunderstood. I think I present as more
You
bougie than I actually
misunderstood.
was. I do think so. But when I engage the academic intellectual class, so to speak, for all the brilliance and wonder that exists there, I don't think that they are any more as a class or group, even despite the politics that they may study and read, prone to revolution than the so-called lumpen who as a class or as a grouping have their own versions of revolutionary activity and analysis and study and behavior that itself, to your point, can be peaked. So in other words, my point is, wherever we find the handfuls of us that are willing to go in that direction, we need to build with each other, because
Yeah.
I don't think the so-called urban middle class or urban intellectual or urban proletariat is any more as a class prone to rebellion than the rural proletariat or lumpen, or vice versa. So
No, and
I
that's
don't,
what is meant when folks say it ain't where you from, is where you at.
yeah,
That's mentally, that's spiritually, that's physically. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing is, for me, I always looked at, you know, the and this is gonna sound weird, but the higher that you go into their particular system, you know, the more indoctrinated you become, unless you're able to see what things are for, from a realistic perspective. Because sometimes a lot of the quote unquote, I would say the intellectuals and the so-called lumpen come in with a tunnel vision type viewpoint of or vantage point, because you're just looking straight ahead. You're not looking at what things are. You're chasing the bag. So in chasing
right.
the bag, you don't see the cats that's chasing you. You know
Mm,
what I mean? So you end up getting caught in a quote unquote game of cops and robbers with these folks. Because
yeah,
that's what you're playing, hide and go seek, as my man talked about, with the police, with the state. You know what I mean? So you're trying to advance and be accepted by the state. It is your rejection of the state that brings on revolution. Your rejection of the state, not because you just want to be rebellious for the sake of being rebellious. Once you have a certain politic, you're clear about what this system is.